We'll talk about checked exception. So in the last part, what we have done is we have used an array. So we have generated an exception using when you say j a z of 5, where the element number of elements is just 5, you are assigning the value to a sixth element, which was giving an error, and the error it was throwing is array index out of bounds exception, and that's why the output was maximum index is 4, right? So let me run the code. So if I say run this, and the output here is it is your array index out of bounds exception. Now what we'll do is we'll see something called as checked exceptions now. So this is what your unchecked exceptions, because this is this is your you're getting this error because we are writing 5, right? So even your compiler doesn't know that it will generate an error or not. So it's like when you run this code, at that time you will get the error. Now let's say you have the next one, which is checked. Now to demonstrate checked exception, let me take a different example. So let me just create this all. So let's make it fresh. Now what we'll do is we'll type a code here. So we'll say let's have a variable I comma j, and the values of this I and j will be we will take this input from user. Now question arises how to take input from user. Now to take input from user, we can use a method called as readLine. So readLine is a method using which you can take the input. Okay, but the problem is readLine method belongs to a class called as bufferReader. So that means in order to use this readLine, we need to create object of bufferReader. So first we'll do is create the object bufferReader. So we'll say br is the object of bufferReader, and we'll say new bufferReader. Now, so if I just import the packages, since bufferReader belongs to a package which is java.io, so we'll click on this error, and we can click on this import java bufferReader, which is from java.io package. Now the problem is we need to pass. So bufferReader expects. So if you say control space, you can see bufferReader expects an object of reader class. That means we need to create the object of a reader or instance of a reader. In order to create the object of or the instance of reader, we need to create object of input stream reader. So input stream reader is a class in Java. Again, it belongs to a package called as java.io. So we'll say is equal to new input stream reader. Now this input stream reader will ask you for the input place. That means from where you are taking the input. So we are saying the input will be coming from system.in. Now system.in specifies that this input will come from the keyboard. So we need to accept that input, and then we need to pass is here. Okay, now we can use something called as br.readLine. So once you got the input, now if you see this readLine method returns you a string value. So there's the source code for readLine. Okay, so this readLine method returns you a string. But what we want here, we want an integer, right? So we'll say I equal to. Now you can see there is an error. The error says cannot convert from string to integer. So you can see here it says cannot convert from string to integer. Now to convert a string into an integer, we need to use a method called as parse. So it's a parse int method. So we need to enclose this statement inside parseInt. Now parseInt is a static method, belongs to a class called as integer. So we have to say integer dot parseInt. Okay, so parseInt is a static method, belongs to a class integer, and then we have to say br.readLine. So now from here you will be getting a string. That string will get converted into an integer, and then we can save it in I. Simple. And then we can do the operation. But hold on, we are still getting an error. Now if you go here, It says unhandled exception type IO exception. Now, when you talk about IO exceptions, so like IO exception, SQL exceptions, all these exceptions comes under checked exception. Now, why we are getting error here is there might be a chance that this buffer reader will get an input which is not suitable, or there is no permission from you to take the input. So obviously it will generate an error. So we need to handle that exception, right? So everything we will write in try block. So we'll say try, and then we'll just provide the indentation here. We'll say tab. Okay, and then we'll use a catch block. Now, which type of catch block? Now we need to use something called as IO exception. Again, you can directly go with the exception class, but to be very specific, we should go for IO exception. It's always better to handle specific type of exceptions. Now what we'll do is we'll say system.out.println, it's println, and we'll print the value of E, which will print the error. Now since this IO exception belongs to our package, we'll say it is, you can even press, you can even click here and say, uh-oh, I made a spelling mistake. It is P. Okay. Now if you say it is, now you can even type something called as Control-Shift-O. So Control-Shift-O will automatically import all the required packages. Okay, so now, yeah, so that's it. Where we have taken the input. Now I need the input for B also, sorry, J also. So we'll say again integer dot parse. So it is parse int, and somewhere here we'll say br dot read line. Okay, and then what we can do is we can ask a user to input a value, because when you run this code, it will directly wait for the user input. But how will the user will know that we need to enter some data? So we'll say system.out.println, and we'll ask a user. So we'll say enter two numbers. Now once you got two numbers, what we can do is we can use one more variable, which is j, and we can say I plus j here. And then what we can do is we can print the value of k, which is system.out.println, and what we'll do is we'll say print the value of k. Simple. So this is how we need to take the input from user. So what we have seen here is we have seen how to take input from user with the help of buffer reader, and then how to handle the checked exception. Now if I run this code, so if I say run as Java application, now the output is, so it's waiting for the input. So we'll say enter two numbers. We can say 5 and 2, and the answer is 7, right? Since this is user input, so you can see it's in different color, and 7 is in different color. Now, so we have seen how to take input from user with the help of buffer reader. We have seen input stream reader. Now in the next part, we'll see how to make this code more efficient and how to do the finishing part of buffer reader.